Welcome to Glow for Hope, sparking conversation on mental health, where we break the silence, build community, and ignite hope. We're here to talk about what really matters: mental health, wellness, and the conversations that help us all feel seen and supported. Every episode will bring real stories, expert insights, and practical tools to help you navigate mental wellness and suicide prevention. Because together, we can change the conversation. Let's get started. So welcome to Glow for Hope, sparking conversation on mental health. I'm Kelly Pelker.
And I'm Delisa Richardson. If you're joining us for the first time, Glow for Hope is all about creating space for honest conversations. We like to build community and we like to encourage connection around mental health and suicide prevention. We keep things real, human, and approachable because, hey, talking about mental health should not be intimidating.
That's right. And every week we sit down with guests who are willing to share their stories, insights, and lived experiences in a way that brings light to topics that often stay in the dark.
And today's guest embodies all of that and more. We're talking with someone whose voice has been a companion to thousands of listeners over the years, first in St. Louis and now in Kansas City, and whose journey has taken her through reinvention, healing, creativity, and some deeply personal mental health battles. And we're happy that she's going to share those with us today.
Yeah, of course. We're talking, of course, about Ashley Elzinga, better known to most people as Lux, radio host, storyteller, lifelong soccer player and coach, content creator, and passionate mental health advocate. She spent 15 years on 105.7 The Point here in St. Louis, connecting with listeners, building community, and using her voice to make people feel less alone. Lux's journey took a major turn when she stepped away from that long chapter of her career. What came next was a period of rediscovery, one that included rebuilding her sense of identity, navigating her mental health, leaning into creativity and community, and openly sharing how medical marijuana became an important part of her healing.
Today, she's co hosting Sparks and Lux on 101 The Fox, creating content that brings people together and contributing her or continuing her mission to help others feel seen, heard, and supported. And that is awesome.
Yeah, we're honored to have her here today to talk about transition, resilience, creativity, mental health, and what it means to tell your story, even when it feels scary. Lux, thank you so much for joining us today. We're glad you're here.
What an incredible welcome. Thank you so much. I already feel at ease. Just that intro alone makes me feel like I'm ready to chat it up.
All
Hey,
right, well,
that's
we
what
love
we like to hear, right?
that.
That's what we like. So, Lux, you spent 15 years on St. Louis radio. What about that season of your life? Like, what was it like? And what ultimately led you to, walk away for it, make a change?
Radio, absolutely a dream come true. I went to college not exactly sure what I wanted to do, knowing my entire life that I was drawn to entertaining, just not sure which avenue of entertainment I enjoyed. I ended up stumbling into radio into college and at Warrensburg, actually, just filled out an application at a job fair and wrote, "Will work for peanuts" with a smiley face literally on the top right corner, and hired me to do weekends on their radio station here, or there in Warrensburg. I left school there to graduate university in St. Louis. And while I was there, I had just met a friend at a concert who said, "Hey, I work in radio." I said, "Well, I used to work in radio." So I put in an application to work in promotions in 2007, where I started at the point. And by 2011, I had my full-time on-air position. I remember crying in my car, being so excited that I was going to get to speak to my city every day. I'd get to choose things that were important to me and support those. I'd get to introduce new artists and experiences to the fans. Truly, there isn't a better job on the planet for me. I can't think of anything I'm better suited for and anything I enjoyed more than being on the radio. But being somebody who was diagnosed very early with ADHD, I think for females, especially in the early 80s and 90s, it was really tough to get that diagnosis. The diagnosis was really built on boys, but I was that hyper. They might be jumping Ashley. I was like that. I was that excitable, I guess. But with my ADHD, sitting in the same room every day and kind of repeating the same patterns every day, you know, giving away tickets to Breaking Benjamin for the 30th, 100th time. I mean, telling everybody that Nirvana is coming up after Sublime, I started to kind of feel a drain on my system. And I thought to myself, nobody really leaves radio. People get fired out of radio, or they maybe leave for something, but they don't really leave. It's such a good gig. Everybody really who wants to be in it chooses to be in it and loves to do it. But I thought to myself, my audience will start to notice. I've been so authentic. I've been so upfront with them about my mental health, about my journey, about how much I love this job, that as I can feel myself not loving the job, if I don't make the choice to walk away on my own, they'll start to notice and their experience will dim and my experience will dim. And so while working with a therapist during COVID, I uncovered that maybe I needed to try something else and maybe something else could be out there for me. And at that point, I had discovered medical marijuana. Before it was even legalized, my parents and I traveled to Amsterdam to use medical marijuana, to use legal marijuana. We traveled to Denver on 420 to take a medical marijuana tour and learn all about the different symptoms that are assisted by the product, the different cannabinoids that assist those symptoms, the different methods you can use it. And it truly opened our minds to a lot. Both my parents have health issues that they were looking to work on. I was as well. So when it finally came to Missouri, I thought, well, you know what? I'm feeling my light dim for radio right now, but I still love my community. I still want to provide some sort of connection, but I'd like to share where I'm at authentically right now. And that is really exploring how medical cannabis has helped me and how I can let other people know that it could possibly be for them. Never wanting it to be something that I'm like, yeah, everyone should try this, because it's literally not for everybody. But I do believe that everybody has the right to the information and the knowledge surrounding it and to make their own choices on the matter. So I met with my boss and I said, hey, I think my time here has come to an end. And it was pretty nice to end my chapter nicely on my 15th year. I rounded it out nicely with my very last Point Fest, which was so special to me. And like the next week, I went on NPR and declared I was going to be a medical marijuana advocate and content creator. So that's, I guess, how I left radio and then got into the cannabis space.
So, so when you stepped into this new chapter, so I mean, you literally moved to Kansas City at that point, right?
Well,
Or that came later, or a little bit later.
yeah, I stayed in St. Louis. I got together with Suede and Since Cannabis. I am a huge supporter of their brand. Their owner, Mitch, absolutely one of the most brilliant women in the entire world. She is actually responsible for Spuds McKenzie. That was her dog
Mm.
from Anheuser-Busch. She was in marketing at the time. That is her creation. She's a brilliant woman. I had met her. She is the head over Since and Suede Cannabis, and I talked to her, and she believed in my ability to communicate ideas and communicate education and to build community. So they took me on as a brand ambassador and advocate. They allowed me to take a week in each sector of cannabis. So I went and worked with the plants hands-on. I was growing them. I worked in trimming. I worked in the concentrates. So I saw how the cartridges and the dab concentrate is created. I got to work in packaging and see how everything gets parceled out and how they check for mold or anything. I mean, it was really an incredible experience. I spent one full week in each department moving around the company, which could not have been a better education because I got to see every part of it. Then I went forth and worked at the Del Mar Suede location because I wanted to be a bud tender as well. Pardon me, that is an emotional support stress dog. LeBron over here. Bron usually sits with me during the interviews, but I think he can smell there's cooking going on outside. But I started working at Suede on Del Mar because I wanted the bud tender experience as well. And I wanted to know as much as I could about the products, not just the Suede and Since ones. And the way to get tangible products outside of that was to work in the store. And then I got to do some content creation. We had been working on event stuff when I got a call from a person in Cumulus media, which is where I work now. And they said, "Hey, I know you're out of radio, but I have a proposition. We're looking for a morning show co-host. If you have any interest at all, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I didn't ask you." And truthfully, I hadn't even thought about radio at the time. I'd been doing the cannabis thing. I had done some freelance social media content creation for Mattress Direct, and some soccer teams. I've been coaching little kids soccer for St. Louis Steamers. It was so great. I had to go home from the cannabis work, completely shower, change my clothes because my hair would smell. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to, but I appreciate that there are lots of businesses that are willing to let me work with their children, even though they know I'm a cannabis advocate. Um, Lord, so that's how I got introduced to the Kansas City idea. My boyfriend at the time was playing professional soccer for the St. Louis Ambush, and his contract was up. And Kansas City is an incredible team.
Hmm.
Kansas City also has the Kansas City Current, which is the first women's team, professional team to have their own stadium. And Kansas City is only 3.5 hours. Now, as a 40-year-old who had never left St. Louis really for I thought, well, 3 hours isn't too bad, right? And I've never done mornings, so that's a new challenge, which excited me. Classic rock is something I grew up on. So although it's not my bread and butter, which obviously is alternative, it's everything I drove listening with my dad. It's everything that I spent my youth listening to. So the music is still stuff I love. And of course, classic rock will eventually become alternative. So I'm just aging music, as it were.
Isn't that sad to think?
I think honestly, when I got there for the meet and greet with the rest of the staff, they said, "And bringing the youth to our station is Lux." And I was like, "I'm 40. How am I bringing the youth to this station?" Think of
Bro, that's that.
not old, but you're not young after 40. So the two of us thought, all right, let's make the move. And we've been here now almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years in April.
Wow.
Yeah,
2 years already.
I
Gee.
know.
So, how was your mental health during all of that process?
Well, it has been an absolute roller coaster. I can remember as far back as I'd say 2019, 2018, going into my boss and saying, "Hey, I need to take time off. My mom's coming to pick me up from work. I have had thoughts that are harmful to my well-being, and I need to be off the air." And he said, "This is the week of Point Fest," and he said, "Absolutely, do whatever you need to do." And I went through some intensive therapy over like the week. I just talked to my therapist every single day. And she got me back to a place where I was feeling confident again. I was able to go to Point Fest and continued on, but having my boss be supportive then was absolutely incredible. One of the best experiences I've had. I'm so lucky. That is not the experience everybody has. I don't know that everybody even is free to tell their bosses that they're having mental crises yet. I hope podcasts like this will break that stigma, but I do want to say how lucky I was for that. Um,
Very much so, because you're right. We are trying to change that.
Yeah. During the pandemic, I was single, living alone in a 3-bedroom house by myself. So I was lonely,
Mm.
very lonely. The pandemic was really rough. My parents are immune compromised, so I couldn't be with them. My brother is a police officer, so he was in the public too much, so none of us could be around him. And I was working from home. So, like everybody else, my mental health took a real dive. But it also, because I had the support system of a therapist, of mental health medications, anxiety, anti-anxiety, anti-depression medication, which I'm both on from my psychiatrist. Um, with that support system, I was able to really dig deep and look into maybe what was below the loneliness, what was below the situational upset. Because I think about anxiety as, I'm worried about things coming up, and depression is worried about things that have passed that I can't really deal with. But I found that with my therapy and honestly with cannabis puts me in the present. It puts me exactly in the moment. It helps me realize how manageable sometimes my problems can be if I'm willing to reach out to the right people for help, because help is always there. I just have to be willing to reach out. But cannabis allowed me to feel that way. And that's when I thought to myself, okay, it's more than just my like giggle drug. It's more than just laugh before going to a silly movie or wanting munchies before I cook a really good meal. It's actually a tool that I can use to really put myself in the present, take the anxiety from the future away, take the depression from the past away, and get in the present. Take a deep breath, feel the seat underneath me, go through any of the steps that my therapists have given me to help me out, snuggle my dog. But those are kind of things that without the cannabis, I wouldn't think about. My brain would race. I'd have a harder time choosing to ask for somebody's assistance. I'd isolate harder. But I found that cannabis was really great for that. And then when I looked around, I saw that veterans were feeling PTSD symptoms, my father being one of those people. And I thought, oh God, it's more than just seizures and cancer. It's more than just glaucoma. It can be mental health too. And now, having learned everything that I did during my cannabis years about ADHD and the different terpenes and how they can affect everybody's system, and how our body just actually has cannabinoids already in it from birth. I think that's something people don't think about. You were born with cannabinoids, and the cannabis plant is the other side. It's the receptor. You have the receptor inside. We've now learned that the runner's high is actually cannabinoids firing rapidly in your brain. Um, so I think taking down the stigma around cannabis and taking down the stigma around mental health, kind of go hand in hand for me. Getting back into radio and finding the soccer community has been definitely a cheer me up, a pick me up. Coaching little kids, taking myself out of the room where I was sitting by myself every day, listening to very angry, aggressive white men music. I'm not gonna lie. A lot of the music is angry. I'm talking about smack my bitch up or rape me or date rape all the time. And, even when you're not consciously focusing on that, it's getting in. As I'm doing emails, I'm hearing these angry messages all day. And I thought to myself, okay, I can get out of this, change direction. Cannabis is a very positive space. I never met an unhappy cannabis worker. They're all happy. From those who are in their suits, clipping plants in sweating, they're listening to their podcast. They're just in there smiling. You know what I mean? To the people who are helping you decide how to deal with your arthritis pain because one strain has more caryophyllene than the other one. They're so happy, joyful. So changing, being around more people, adding the youth soccer, something where I'm moving, and then the cannabis really put me in a good spot so that when the Kansas City radio offer came, I thought, okay, I'm better prepared. I still love radio. I still want to do this. How can I do all of it? And I've somehow been able to do that. I have spoken out about cannabis a lot, which I know can be very scary. So is speaking out about mental health, but somehow still St. Louis City SC still wants to work with me. Somehow
That's amazing.
here wants to work with me. Somehow I've gotten to be the announcer for the Kansas City Current. You know what I mean? I've had these incredible experiences, and none of these companies once have shuddered at, oh, that's the girl who talked about her suicidal thoughts. That's the girl who smokes bongs on Instagram, because there's video of that. It's there. And I told them when they're hiring me, just so you know, there's videos of me smoking bongs on the internet.
I think that was right about the time I met you.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, I need you to know that I'm wanting to break the stigma. It's not, the pothead on the corner anymore. It's
Right.
everybody. You know what I
I
mean?
love that transparency that you did, but, when you were going through your healing process and everything, when did you decide that now was the time to start publicly talking about, 1, your mental health issues, and then your advocacy for cannabis, and did one come before the other, or did they come together?
That's a great question. I think my thought about mental health came first. I have gone through quite a few bouts of depression. Anxiety is something that always follows me, but depression seems to be an in and out floater throughout my life. I remember when I was younger watching my mother go through a depressive episode, and it was the first anyone in our family had dealt with it. And I remember seeing the way that her coworkers responded to her when she came back from that. And it wasn't always positive. You'd hear things like, oh, don't say this to her, she might cry, those kind of comments. And this is like, early 2000s. And I thought, God, that's crazy. So here I am in 2012, 2013. I'm dealing with depression, But I'm so far, we've moved so far from the don't tell her she's going to cry. I could start to see a little bit of light. I got introduced to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, started talking to them about things. I did my first walk, and then I thought to myself, I have such a powerful microphone in the city of St. Louis. And on social media, I know it can go a little bit farther than that. I know that I'm not afraid to talk about it. I've always been a pretty, almost too honest, the TMI kind of human. But if I'm not willing to talk about it, who's going to be? So I just started telling people. I got to work more with the AFSP, and they actually bought advertising where I was able to say in rotation, "Hi, my name is Lux. I have had suicidal thoughts. I get through them by asking for help, and I am your successful radio DJ friend." It isn't just the person on the corner. It's never just the person you're thinking of. It could be the person next to you. It could be the person you think is so successful, who's on this wave of stardom. Oh, that's Lux. She's best friends with David Freese from the Cardinals, and she's on stage with, this band. And it's like, yeah. And then when I go home at night, I still feel this intense loneliness, no matter how many people I'm around. And because I've asked for help, I get to continue to do those moments, because the stardom moments will continue to come if you can get through and continue to walk through the dark moments. But asking for help is the only way that I was able to do it. And I was like, I got to tell people. I got to tell people. Then we did the cannabis tours. And once my parents retired from their jobs, for the most part, I felt more confident in discussing it. I didn't want them to have any kind of stigma attached to them. I was a little bit worried about that. My brother being a police officer, I was like, oh God, my brother's he's a sergeant now. You know what I mean? I'm like, oh my God, this is tricky here. My mom teaches in a great school district. My dad is a retired paramedic firefighter of 36 years, which is a lot of PTSD to take in. I thought,
Sure.
you know what? Now that my parents are retired, I'm gonna start talking about it. So I started a little bit here and there, a little bit here and there, and then once I decided to retire from radio, I turned around to anyone who's important to me, and I was like, I'm going to be loud about this. I'm going to be loud, just in the hopes that it helps one person. My mother has RA, and she's able to get up and do her laundry because of cannabis. My dad has PTSD, which caused very deep intracranial seizures, which caused memory loss. And he was able to stave off many years of worse memory loss because of cannabis. He works with his doctors who know about his cannabis use, and finding doctors that know about it is really important. But I thought, if I can help one person, that's worth it. I've had
Absolutely.
I've had my success as this person who isn't sharing her personal life, and now I started sharing about my suicide. Why, thoughts? Why don't I share about how I deal with them?
And were they always just thoughts, or did you ever try to take action?
I have never taken action or tried to, which has been I feel
Yeah.
very grateful, because I know how quickly thoughts can turn into action. Uh, I have to say my support system has always been the reason why it's never gotten that far for me. And then I think cannabis allows me to never get to that deep ever. I'm always able to take myself out of whatever I'm worried about and into the present and breathe because of cannabis. So whenever I'm feeling left of center or right of center, depending on how that is, I'm
Hmm.
able to, and I use through all methods. My mom, who doesn't like to smoke a lot because of her throat, she uses a lot of the gummies. My dad is also a big fan of the gummy. But for me, I can just hit a joint or smoke a little bit of my vape. I prefer flower over anything else. It's just healthier. But because of the smoke, it's an instant feeling, and I'm able to instantly inhale, exhale, and sit with my thoughts. I
I think one of the great ways that you went about this was because you educated yourself so much on it. And that's a huge thing. It's not just, hey, let's just go get this medical marijuana card at the time and smoke up whatever. You really took the time to learn about it and find out how you could benefit from it.
that's
Not
actually
only just for you, but for your parents. And then you shared that with people so that they knew. It's not just about, picking up a joint and
no, I always say educate, then medicate. I mean,
Mhm.
you're able to tailor now because of the medical marijuana industry, you're able to tailor your experience to what you're looking for. THC is the psychoactive property in cannabis. That's what's going to give you the high feeling. CBD is non-psychoactive. You can combat higher THC with higher CBD. So a good 50-50 mix, or keeping your mix CBD higher, is going to keep your any psychoactive symptoms low. So you're able to decide, do I even want to feel high, or do I just want the cannabinoids to take effect in my body? With different terpenes, you're able to attack different symptoms, whether it's anxiety or stress or insomnia. They all have different properties. And you can also tailor how much you consume and how, which is incredible. Back in the day, it was like, oh God, the guy on the street has a joint. That's awesome. But now it's like, hey, we have a cream that you can rub on your shoulder because that's where your pain hurts. And you want that directly to your shoulder. I always say that about consuming: choose your method based on how you're feeling. If you're having stomach issues, I think edibles are great because it does have to pass through your stomach before it gets to your bloodstream. Obviously, if you're having mental issues, I like to smoke because it gives me an instant feeling. There's even suppositories. We've got so many incredible things. There's lubrication for sexual intimacy now. You really can tailor your experience. There are educational programs. We're getting more info. And honestly, the fact that it's legalized means we're going to get more scientific research, which means we're just going to have more knowledge. And the more knowledge, the better, because I do want to state that there are mental health issues that are exacerbated by cannabis, which is why I say this is not for everybody. Those folks who have more psychiatric issues, they can have psychosis from using any kind of substance. So I think it's important always to check with your doctor. And if you don't have a doctor who is comfortable talking about it, get a second opinion, just because you want somebody who's more educated on it. Doctors are not, you know what I mean? They're not paying them extra to sit around and learn a bunch about cannabis right now. Nobody's like, hey guys, we'd love for you to take time off to just like educate yourself on something that was illegal a couple years ago. So
Right.
you might have to, and it doesn't mean leave that doctor, but I'm saying look for a doctor who has some sort of education on it, because there's so much being learned constantly. And you just want to make sure that it will mix well with your system.
Well, in your advocacy work that you're doing, have you been able to get some physicians on board to kind of help them spread the word within their community? Because like you said, there's not a whole lot of research, and we know they're bombarded with just everyday things. That's hard for them to kind of get up on the new research, especially with something like cannabis. Have you been able to navigate that while still trying to navigate the stigma around, even medical marijuana in the mental health community? And have you also found, or how do you find Missouri, because you're still in Missouri now, as opposed to other states and other countries? How far behind are they in doing cannabis research and being, really open? Because we know that it passed, but we also know that there were some folks who are like, we really didn't want this to pass. So what could Missouri do better that you've seen maybe in Colorado and that you saw overseas?
Well, to the first part of that question, interesting enough, I had a really negative experience with a doctor, which is how I know you need to go find one that is more positive. My psychiatrist, after treating me for like 5 years, even though he knew I used cannabis, I left my radio job to do cannabis. 2 years into me working as a full-time cannabis advocate, decided he could no longer work with me because he didn't want to work with patients who had cannabis use because it could cause anxiety. He also
Wow.
didn't want to work with patients who drank coffee for the same reason. I put him on speakerphone and went downstairs. I was living with my parents. I just sold my house. I went downstairs and I put him on speakerphone. I was like, can you repeat that? I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you, because I needed them to be my witness, because I thought it was the most insane thing I'd ever heard. I
That
was
is crazy.
You are creating an environment for patients to not be honest with you. You are creating a community where people will be afraid to speak to their doctors about their actual use. This is a plant that comes from the ground. It doesn't kill anybody. I'm being honest with you. I feel like you should go educate yourself on this. He had
For
moved
sure.
out of Missouri, so maybe he had some Texas brain on him. But that was the first time I was like, oh my gosh, I hang up the phone and my dad's like, this is crazy because my neurologist at Wash U understands the concepts and is able to understand. And, while at first he said, I'd rather you take these medications. But my dad said, could I try with this first? And I said, well, yeah. And if it doesn't go well, we can always get on the medication. Well, it did go well. So he was able to stave off those medications that do damage to liver and kidney and stuff with side effects for multiple years, which is so awesome. We are in Missouri, I think, I'd say we're pretty advanced as far as the United States. We're not as good as where California and Colorado are. They just really have adopted this. They have all sorts of kind of industries that we don't. Like when I went to Denver and got to take the tour, I had two college women who run an entire company where they just do education around cannabis. They drive you in an SUV, they take you to a dispensary, they take you to a grow house, they take you to see the concentrates being made, and then they take you to a puff pass paint for fun on the way home. You're allowed to consume in the car, you're allowed to consume like legally. So they're like, hey, would you like to try your first dab? Is there any consumption you've never tried or you wanted to? Is there any question you could possibly have? And I thought, this is so incredible. This is a job. These women, this is like a job for them. And we don't quite have that here yet in Missouri. We don't quite have consumption lounges. I do remember Puff Pass Paint being the first time I got to smoke in public. When I was in Amsterdam, they were already on it. Amsterdam, literally one of the coolest experiences of my life because drinking culture is so small there. Because the cannabis culture has really taken over. I saw no bar fights. I saw nobody yelling. Nobody was outside being loud or ridiculous outside of establishments. What I did see was a lot of like young 20-year-olds sitting around playing cards and smoking joints, drinking milkshakes. All the cafes out there, it's a joint and a milkshake. Or especially with an edible, because you want to eat your edibles with fat soluble stuff so it gets to your system. So milkshakes always. But just walking around, it wasn't the nightlife that I see here in St. Louis when I'm out on Washington Avenue and people are driving around crazy and people are yelling at each other and the cops are dealing with that.
And don't they have some of the healthiest people in the country?
I didn't see a single person who is overweight. Not that overweightness is the contributor to healthiness, because those two are not correlated. But I was blown away by everybody being relatively sized proportionate for their body. And then there were no supplement stores anywhere. I saw no gyms anywhere. Walked around for a week being like, you sure there's not like a Nutris supplement store somewhere? Like that's in Missouri and in the United States, it's like, take this supplement, lose this weight, do this thing. And you're like, yeah, not over there. Everybody's walking because you can walk with cannabis. It's not the same. I mean, just alcohol is just such a different world. I should note that I pretty much stopped drinking altogether in 2018, thanks to Nikki Glazer, believe it or not.
Oh.
St. Louis's own Nikki Glazer. She had posted about her journey with drinking and had said she had stopped. And one of the things she had mentioned was this morning anxiety she felt. And she was like, I felt like it had no purpose in logic. Like I didn't hurt anybody last night. I wasn't rude. I don't remember doing anything bad. Nobody said anything bad to me, but I felt this way. And I realized I felt that way every time I drank. And I realized you don't have to have like necessarily a drinking problem to stop drinking, that just the anxiety in the morning afterwards is enough. Like, oh, like my liver is totally fine. My friends aren't embarrassed by me, those normal triggers that cause people to stop drinking in their 20s. But instead I was like, no, this just makes my anxiety so much worse. And cannabis makes it so much better. So no, I traded one in for the other. And I had mentioned to Nikki, is that anxiety, does that come from alcohol? And she's like, yes, girl. So she asked for my address and she mailed me a book that she read that helped her quit drinking. And I read the book and then quit thereafter. I'll have a margarita, maybe at a Mexican restaurant or possibly champagne on New Year's. But other than that, I'm not a drinker anymore, thanks to her. So I thought that's a little bit of advocacy right there. If she can reach out from as large of a celebrity as she is and do something like that. Me and my, Midwestern celebrity, my tiny St. Louis celebrity, what can I do with it,
I can tell you, as a woman of a particular age, that drinking thing, I kind of stopped drinking too because that made my hot flashes and everything else worse. I had wine and it just lit me on fire. So I can totally see that.
It doesn't have to be that you destroyed your life. There could be other reasons.
Right.
Yeah, you have a whole nother era coming up with your age.
Yes,
I
absolutely.
just turned 42, so it's coming for me. I can feel it already. I got on the hormone replacement therapy not was it 4 months ago. God.
Yeah, perimenopause is not gonna, it's
Yeah.
coming for you. It's something
I
to-
can tell you peppermint oil is your best friend for hot flashes.
Oh, I'm gonna start
You get
locking
a
it
you
now.
get a roller of that, and when you start feeling it, you put it on the nape of your neck, and man, you're good for a couple hours.
Oh, amen.
I love that stuff. So one thing I want to address, and then I don't want to make this all about the medical marijuana. I want to get a little bit more into your personal side too. But so it's great to be able to do all this and take the gummies, and it's still there's employers to deal with, and drug testing and all of that. Even I know
I work in
the
Kansas. I
years
can't take my
years ag-
with me across the state. I live like 2 miles from state line. I am 2 miles from being illegal. And yeah, it's not fun. I have had one run-in with the law over it, which was not my favorite memory. It happened pretty recently. I had brought my gummies fully in their package, unconsumed, receipt and everything. Not that that would matter, I guess. I took it to Iowa with me to work for a soccer camp, and we got pulled over. And they said it smelled like weed in the car, and I'm like, of course it did. We just spent the week at my parents' house. They grow it in their house, like it's in my hair, it's in my clothes, it's in our bag that had been in their house all week. I'm like, of course it does. But they said, can we search your car? And I didn't even think about the gummies at all because marijuana card. And actually in Iowa, you can have suppositories and you can have cannabis pills. You can't have gummies. Gummies are unfortunately, so I can have it. I just can't have that method of it. And even though it was closed with receipt and everything, I still got a ticket for it. It was a quite expensive, I think at least $3,000 for that lawyer. And
Holy cow.
I did some community service, and they sat me down with a psychologist or a psychiatrist, I think, who determines whether or not I need to go to a drug treatment program. And we had a lovely conversation, and she
Mhm.
was laughing because I'm like, here, you can go online. I'm a cannabis advocate. I live in a cannabis legal state. I have my card and everything. And she's like, well, I'm not going to recommend anything for you. Just keep doing it like you're doing. You know what I mean? She's like, you use as your doctor advises. And I said, yep. So it's a weird place where in our country, not even every state is caught up. I'm just trying to stave off my anxiety and depression symptoms while I'm going to be out of town for 4 days. I plan to not bring any smoke to not upset anyone around me. I plan to microdose to, program my job out there because they allow me to do that while I'm photographing soccer players. I'm not really in contact with anybody else. So yeah, it's still a weird world. My job is still aware of what I do, but if I did it, in their parking lot, I'd probably get arrested because Kansas did arrest a couple of Kansas City Chiefs players over the summer for having cannabis in Kansas. So
Yeah, and that makes sense. I guess I'm thinking more along the lines of, I mean, you're fortunate,
yeah,
and the whole world of drug testing and random drug testing and this and that, but you've got the people that are dealing with these mental health issues that their employer probably doesn't recognize or care about anyway, sadly. So if they go to find a solution or
yeah,
something that eases it for them like you did, they still can't. I know a friend of mine's husband just used the cream, and that still showed up on a drug test, and he got fired.
yeah, still gets in the blood system. It's really awful. I will recommend lots of cranberry juice. I have passed one drug test on lots of cranberry juice. I don't know if it's solid answer.
Wait a minute, we're not trying to get around that.
It did,
We don't want to
it
advocate
did
that on the show.
probably get hired back in 2006, I think. But it's awful because cannabis, I feel like, is one of the least aggressive forms of treatment when it comes to medicine that treats these things with the antidepressant and anti-anxiety medication I'm on, Lexapro and Wellbutrin. Both of those have side effects that come along with them. A lot of people will choose to treat their mental health issues with alcohol, which is obviously a very dangerous way to do that. Alcohol shouldn't be used for a coping mechanism, but everything in society and everything out there in the world and everything you've read and learned from childhood has told you if you have a rough day, you go out and have a drink. So I fully 100% understand why anybody would go out and do that. But cannabis being one of those things where you can't overdose on it, you can't die from it, and now you can choose to use it even without the psychoactive properties and CBD. So you're not at all impaired. You're still able to medicate with it. It's really frustrating to see people not be able to use it. And I think that's one of the reasons when medical came out before recreational, I started promoting recreational. Please sign this bill. Please allow recreational. And people are like, why? Don't you want it to be medical use? I thought you were all about medical use, Lux. And I was like, I am about folks having access. And there are a lot of folks who are afraid to get their medical card. They don't want the state knowing that they're using cannabis because they might be a government employee, but they deserve access to medication. And recreationally, they don't have to sign into anything to get it. So I want them to be, I just want access for people.
I had my medical marijuana card in California for a whole year. I have never even touched the stuff. I wa I wanted to experience the process of what it was out there. So on one of my trips, and went and I literally in 10 minutes had my medical marijuana card, had talked to a doctor on the phone who with 5 minutes later, you fill out a form,
Yeah.
you go in this office that's right next to the dispensary. They ask you like 10 questions. You speak with a doctor for 2 minutes,
Yeah.
and 5 minutes later, you have a medical marijuana card.
They probably had a guy outside spinning a board that said, Mr. 420, Dr. 420 right here too. You know what I mean? I just
It
got
was
back from
crazy.
just got back from a cruise, and one of our stops was in San Juan, Puerto Rico, and cannabis is legal in Puerto Rico. And I thought, as a part of my tourism, I need to experience this. I felt the exact same way. So I took my medical card. You are allowed to, with your United States medical card from any state, go in. You can purchase flour and you can purchase, no, you can purchase vapes and edibles. You cannot purchase flour. But I was able to purchase some edibles. They had the Mike Tyson ears, hilarious. Mike Tyson has ears that have a little bite cut out because he's you could get
That's right.
his little ears, and I got a vape so we could walk around and we smoked, and then we ate all the best food in San Juan, and then I threw the vape away and we got back on our cruise and went the rest of the trip. But I thought it was so cool. I was like, I have to experience this everywhere that it's legal. I have to experience this. And Missouri has one of the more relaxed laws in the country. So pretty much everybody here can experience it. I was in the dispensary over the weekend. Saturdays is 30% off the one near me, and it was packed. And a woman came in and she said, "Is this how it normally is?" And I said, "Oh no, it's just Saturday. It's 30% off." She goes, "Okay, so how do I do this?" I said, "Oh, are you new?" She goes, "I'm from Nebraska. We're not there yet. I got to try it." I was like, "Oh, walk on up to the front. You show me your ID." I gave her the whole spiel. Thought you never really lose, you never really leave cannabis education, even if you're just a patient or a customer, you know what I mean? But I
Yeah.
love that. I love seeing people from other states come in and safely experience it. And the
So I
people
have,
who are
I,
knowledgeable at the dispensaries too, the people who are at the dispensaries are as knowledgeable as anybody could be. They put so many training hours into the Missouri staff. It's pretty incredible what we do here.
so I have one quick question before we go on to you and your life outside of cannabis. How with Kelly's example, somebody just put a cream on
Mhm.
and then they were drug tested and then they were fired. But if say they had an accident and they were on like an opioid and that came up, they could go and say, "Hey, my doctor prescribed this." We have to do better.
We
I
have to do
would think,
so much.
with cannabis, say, "Okay, my doctor prescribed this for this so that you can't get fired
The
for
hardest part
something
about it
like that."
too is that it stays in your system for so long. I don't feel like your friend got a fair shake because he could have rubbed that on his leg and it's in there for 3 days. It has nothing to do with his job performance on Monday if he put rub on his leg on Saturday. So I feel like the drug testing system is fully failed. I always thought that if they were able to find a way scientifically to test a limit, then they would do more broad span testing on this. But as of right now, you could pull my hair and I could have not smoked all last week, but I've been a smoker since I was in my 20s. So like it would be in my,
Stays in there for a long time.
Yeah, sometimes it stays in for 3 months. You know what I mean? So that's the testing system is terrible. We really need to do better there. I really thought that they wouldn't be using that unless they had an accurate way to say, okay, you've had too much for your system. I don't know that there will ever be a way for them to tell that, but science has done some incredible things. So there's still hopes, because I don't want people using this in an unsafe manner. I don't want somebody ripping their bong and getting behind the wheel. Although
Mhm.
chances are you'll see them crawling at 25 with their blinker on for the 5 miles before they're turning left. They will be the slower driver. They will be the paranoid one. Um, but I don't want that. Nobody wants that. And so knowing your limit, I think always my best suggestion to anybody who wants to try it: go low, start slow, stay home. If you ever feel like you're too high, peppercorns, you can crack them in your teeth. The peppercorn is a terpene that will reduce it. Anything CBD, or eat, get your metabolism going, get some food in you. But I think always just starting with the lowest dose, giving yourself nice time to wait it out is the way to do it. But I really do hope we get testing to a better place. And currently, the two things that upset me most are people who get in trouble for utilizing medical marijuana safely, and people who are in jail for using marijuana at all in the past. We know now a lot more about why they made marijuana illegal. Racism, racism. But there's a lot of that. But the fact that people are still in jail for this right now is bonkers to me. We know too much now. If you're a non-violent cannabis offender, you were smoking a joint in your backyard and a cop, like, let them out. You know,
Yeah.
the Last Prisoner Project is a way to donate to that if anybody is interested or feels compelled to help those who could have been like me. I could have, if I was not a cannabis educator, maybe if I had not met the cops on a good day, maybe if I was not the color that I am, the police officers in Des Moines could have made things a lot worse for me for having those gummies in their state.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? I could be in real jail time. You know what I mean? Like, it's just people like me trying to deal with my ADHD, my autism, my depression, my anxiety in a natural way with something from the ground that my body already has receptors for, guys. So please just let me do that. Thank you. Let everybody do that, please and thank you. If they want to, within their doctor's prescriptions, of course, because doctors really do want to help you.
Well, we need to make sure everybody shares this episode so that it goes far and wide and
Thank
get
you.
that message out there.
That's right. We got to reach the whole reefer madness
Yes.
generation. We got to
There you
get that.
go.
We got to get that out. We got
There you
to
go.
get that out.
I
All
was
right, so let's. I'm
dispensary.
sorry, you had one more thing to
I was
say?
almost surprised at the dispensary, the generations that came in. I mean, it's everybody. It's my parents who are in their 70s who grow. It's, people in their early 20s. It's everybody. It's amazing. People on vacation, people looking to sleep so they can, be a better mom. It's everybody. So yeah, let's get this out there.
Okay, so storytelling is basically at the heart of who you are. And how did creativity help you reconnect with yourself during your hardest seasons?
Oh my God, journaling. I became obsessed with journaling. Just writing down everything, the ugly, the good, bad, and not really in any form, whatever it took. If some days I just needed to scribble down words or I just needed to scratch at the paper, I have some that are literally just hash marks because I just needed to get something out and I didn't have the words for it. So I think storytelling in my own way is writing my journals to myself. I also really got into content creating and exploring issues that I was having. So I got into a real heavy period of TikToking about my relationships or lack thereof, my struggles, mental health, and my ADHD quite a bit. So kind of just expressing myself in ways that I could, I think really helped me find myself again, because I really had lost some of that before I left radio. I just felt like a clone had been doing the same days. So Groundhog Day. Hey
Hmm.
guys, it's me. It's the first song of the day. It's your L2K. It's Wolf Dog Wednesday. You know what I mean? It just felt like it was and I just am too much of a everything's all over the place. I like to kind of be moving. So using my journal in the tough times, and then once I got to a more even keel, being able to create things online and post them out for other people to see and seeing their reaction, and realizing that we're so much more alike, all of us, and realizing that I could affect some sort of feelings in anybody really helped.
Yeah, because you've always built community around you, whether you were on the radio, sports, content creation. I know what a whiz you are at social media, and you've built quite an influencer following, even though you don't might not like that word.
No, I used to call myself a human connector because I would find somebody and I'd be like, oh, Jan really loves the Marvel movies. I'm like, oh, but she doesn't know Ben, and Ben loves the Marvel movies. I got to get them together. And somehow I'd manage to find them and get them together. I've always felt like creating a community was my calling. I also subscribe heavily to human design, which is
I
kind of
love that.
newfangled zodiac astrology.
I'm a projector.
Are you? Oh my
Yes.
goodness. Oh, that's amazing. I'm a generator. I'm a 4/6 generator. But my ultimate, I think, and human design echoes this, and I think that's a lot of what human design is. It echoes how you already feel on the inside, which is why so many of us connect to it. And for those who don't know, please check it out. My goal in life is just to create community. That's literally what it says, and it's how I felt my whole life. So I feel very tied to that. I did talk to my therapist shortly about possibly doing some human design work. So I went and took a course. I have since forgotten everything I learned, but
It's a lot to absorb.
I know I was able to read charts back during the pandemic. I was reading for all my friends. I have all of them all signed up. I'm like, oh my God, how do I know that everyone around me is a projector, both my parents.
Yeah.
I can totally see it in you too. Like wanting to help, wanting to assist, wanting to, you know what I mean? It's all there.
It answered a lot of questions for me. That was a defining moment when I found out that, you know what? I am in that small percentage of the world, and I am the oddball, not
Yep.
the rest of the world.
And you know
Because of the way I could never understand, why don't people think like I do? And that was a huge eye opener for me.
yeah, I felt the same way about being a generator. I'm like, oh, I'm here to make energy and to do what feels right to me. And when radio didn't feel right to me, I thought I have to leave. I have to find
Mhm.
something else that feels right to me. And then cannabis did. And then when radio felt right to me again, I thought, okay, great, I can go back. But it's, the generators, we're just here to bring the energy and to do the work. But you can only do the work if it's something you're passionate about. So I
Right.
suggest everyone looks into human design. It's brilliant.
I
I
love
think
that. And how do you feel like the telling your story or hearing someone else's story, how does that help in the in spreading the word about, mental illness? Because there's so much power in storytelling when folks are just telling their truth and living their truth. How do you feel that energy kind of goes out into the world, and how does that help?
In 2013, I was meant to get married. I'd been engaged for 2 years. I called off the wedding 12 days beforehand, and it was an absolutely traumatic experience, as anyone would imagine it was. But I kept looking online for blogs or books. Had anybody thought about calling off their wedding before? Had anybody thought about pulling the plug? Is there anybody out here who's had this experience? And I found like almost nothing. It was horrible. I really wished, I just remember thinking, I wished there were more books, more movies centered around women who turned around and left. And then what happened to them afterwards? Not just them getting up to the thing and then running away. And you're like, oh, she did it. Great. She's not with him. Like, no, I
you
needed
need a
more.
runaway bride part two, right?
Yes, yes, I want to know what happens afterwards. Did she send all the gifts back? How does this work? Did she go to therapy? Does she ever feel again? Does she love, And I was just really angry that nobody had really told that story. I still think I need to tell that story because I realized it was there, and that's one that I haven't really talked about, and one that I do want to. But just being in that moment and knowing I needed a story, knowing I was looking for somebody else to share that this had happened to them. Every year on the anniversary of, I think there's like a day, there's a national day for everything. There's a national day that supports women who have dealt with miscarriages. Every year, there's at least 3 or 4 people on my Facebook feed who share their stories. I've had a miscarriage too. And I was like, God, I needed this when I was having this. I needed this during my miscarriage. I needed to know that this happens to more women, that it's okay to feel devastated about it still years later. There's no end to your grief. And like, seeing those stories pop up more and more. And I think the more that we see stories and see ourselves in them, the more we can rationalize with ourselves that there's a future past this. They got through it, I can get through it. So in looking for stories when I needed them, I think that taught me I should be telling mine.
And with you using your particular platform, what would you want if there's not one thing or maybe three things, what do you want people to walk away from when you're using your platform to talk about mental health or talk about cannabis? What do you want people to grab onto?
That's a really good question. I guess I kind of just want them to see that I'm human and that they're human and that that is just sometimes a mess. And that's how it's designed. We really are designed to struggle, to succeed, to hurt, to laugh. And all of those emotions are only made good by the other ones. You're only happy because you've been sad. But in the very sad, after sad, after sad, after stressed, after angry, after sad, you can start to lose sight that those good moments can happen again. So I hope that they just look at me and go, she's human, I'm human. Whatever happens to both of us is going to be okay, something we can deal with, and we can always kind of deal with it together.
Well, know that we see you.
Oh, thank
We
you.
hear you.
I feel seen. Thank you.
So I feel this is like my Barbara Walters question. If
Okay.
you could go back and talk to the version of yourself right before you left the point, what would you say?
Oh, you're making the right choice. You got this. It's scary because nobody else has done this. Everyone who I had ever seen in radio had gotten fired because it's an awesome job. I mean, on a good day, you could work 4 hours a day, chatting to your friends, listening to your favorite bands. On a harder day, there's a lot of challenges that come with it. But I would say you're doing the right thing. It's okay. It's okay to change your chapter. It's totally okay to start a new one.
Love that. Love that. So is there anything else that you want to use this platform for that, not that it's as big as yours anyway, but
I
we're,
love it.
we're gonna get there. We're gonna get there.
Yes. I just want to say thank you to you guys for doing this, and thank you to everyone who listens to this podcast. Mental health is something that needs more voices. It doesn't matter how many people listen, whether it's 5 or 50 or 50,000. We need every single one of those ears to hear these messages, to hear other people's stories so that they truly know that they are human. And we just need this to come to light in all the dark places, because there's a lot of dark spaces that could really use conversations like these. So I'm just thankful that you allowed me to be a part of it and that you guys continue to do this every episode.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And where, I don't know if you even know this or not, but we have create community as a part of our tagline. So
I love that.
we love that. But so where can people connect with you?
You can find me on all the social media at Lux St. Lou. If you're interested in my medical marijuana journey, at Midwestern Mary Jane is where you find me. Midwestern Mary Jane, give that one more time. And if you're interested in soccer, Turf Talk MASL. I've got a podcast where I talk about indoor soccer. I love soccer to bits. FIFA's coming here with the World Cup. I'm very excited about it. And soccer is a beautiful community, whether you're a fan. I just feel like find your community, you know what I mean? So find your community, but if you're into soccer, you can find me there too. I have my soccer bear sweatshirt on and everything.
I see that. My grandson's into soccer. He's 9 and he's playing soccer. He loves everything soccer. So we're at a lot of fields, a lot.
Well, you let me know. I'm the indoor host or the outdoor host for St. Louis City at the team. It's very family friendly, and if you guys ever want to come to a game, you let me know, and I'll get you some tickets, because the second team is all about kids and family. We have free face painting and all sorts of fun games we play with the crowd. So it's very much different than the big team. We're like the JV squad kind of, and we have a ton of fun. So 9 years old, the fans get all their autographs signed by the entire team. It's such a blast.
Oh,
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Definitely. I will take you up on that.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
I was one of the first, well, there was 2 of us at the same time, the first 2 girls to make the soccer team in junior high.
Oh my God. Do you
And
know
then
how huge of an accomplishment that is? That's like
I quit to try out for cheerleading. It didn't last very long.
that's kind of amazing. Number one, because that is a massive accomplishment, because women were not allowed to do sports for such a long time. And number two, I quit after being the captain of the varsity basketball team at Parkway Central to do POMs. So choose a journey, choose a new chapter if you want, go back to it. You know what I mean? Like there's no set way you have to go about things. No one says if you have to spend your entire life playing basketball, you got to do that your senior year. Do what you want, you know?
I,
I should have
I
known
the
I was never going to do one thing for the whole world after that, you know?
the funny thing is, I did not make cheerleading, so then I was left with neither one of them, and that's what put me into softball and volleyball. So,
And you know, that door closed and another two opened. Now we have a professional women's softball league finally this year. I mean, Jesus Christ, we're getting there, guys.
we
One
are. We're
time.
making strides.
Yes.
Yeah, we got a sports network. So hey, and what one's opening here in St. Louis? Isn't it the bar that's all going to be all women's?
I think they're calling it the sports bar or sports
Yes,
bra.
The sports bra.
Yes.
We
I
have
love
one
that.
on the Dub. It's so cool. I cannot wait to visit the one in St. Louis. Let's go, ladies.
Let's go. Let's go. Well, Ashley, you've been such a wealth of knowledge, and we could talk forever on a lot of different subjects.
I could
so-
really talk forever. You're right. I could.
Well, thanks for joining us. And Delisa, anything before we sign off?
Yeah, truly. Thank you so much for being so vulnerable and for all of the information that you shared. There's a lot of things that I wrote down that I want to check out, and I'm sure that our listeners will as well. So we really appreciate your advocacy and just you sharing your truth, and like you said, being that generating such great positive energy. I love that. Thank you so much.
We're gonna have a whole conversation about human design, the three of us, next time we. I'm gonna brush up and be reading your charts. Send me your birthdays.
Oh, that's funny.
Thanks so
All
much.
right. Well, until next time, keep shining. Thank you for joining us on Glow for Hope. If today's conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. Remember, your mental wellness matters, and you are never alone. For more resources and support, visit glowforhopenfp.org. That's glowforhopenfp.org. Stay connected, stay hopeful, and keep the conversation going. Until next time, keep shining.
This podcast does not and is not intended to provide medical advice. The information presented on this podcast should not be interpreted or construed in any way as a replacement or substitution for medical advice. It is important that you discuss your condition, treatment options, or any questions that you may have with your doctor or healthcare provider.